Welcome to Listen to Me, a multi-voiced exploration of the city with 21 guests sharing their personal experiences of Milan's contemporary art, architecture, design, music, fashion and literature. We explore each theme in 4 episodes. Home to the Salone del Mobile, the furniture exhibition, and Design Week, one of the world's largest events dedicated to design, Milan proves it's Italy's most eclectic city once again. From concept to design, whether it's furniture, fashion or planning spaces, here design combines taste and functionality, vision and style. It's a continuously evolving art form. In this itinerary, Listen to Me will explore all the spaces, places and events that make Milan a design capital. So, let's ask Chiara Alessi, a design historian, why Milan is so famous in this respect.
In 1963, Giuliano became the Nobel Prize winner for chemistry for inventing Moplin, and the application of plastic in design began. And all of this happened in Milan. It happened in Milan because there is this combination of production, research and creativity. The Salone del Mobile, or furniture exhibition, was created with the aim of making Italy an international furniture exporter. And it achieved this virtually immediately, from 61, when it began, to 69. So in this first decade, imagine what was happening worldwide, and even further. In 61, there was Yuri Gagarin, and in 69 there was the moon landing. And exactly in this period, Italy's exports went from 9 billion to 65 billion. This led to the 80s, when Milan became the leading exporter of designer furniture internationally, even overtaking Cologne, which was historically its competitor. Today, this all lives on in its own legacy. So what was essentially born out of something concrete and empirical is a bit vaguer today, if you like, as far as brand is concerned. Milan is designed by definition. So you can't not come to Milan if you're involved in design. Of course, the schools and universities also contribute as they're increasingly dedicated to study and research into design, which draws people not only from all over Europe, but now really from all over the world.
Why is Italian design so extremely successful? Let's hear from designer Alessandra Baldereschi.
What I see as typically Italian is the craftsmanship of companies and the ability not to admit defeat in the face of ideas that appear impossible. Italian craftsmen and companies are still able to say, OK, let's give it a try and you'll only find this openness here in Italy. In terms of concepts or ideas, I think it's more widespread. It's no longer just Italian. There are really good French, Dutch and German designers who have taken Italian know-how and made it their own. So it's become their method. But then they come to us for prototyping because only we can offer certain levels of excellence.
Another fundamental aspect for the development of Italian design, according to Chiara Alessi, is the Design Week. This event brings a collection of new products and creations to the city, making Milan the world design capital par excellence, able to innovate year after year.
It's a really fun time for Milan, which is not usually a place that stands out for its hospitality. It's great to see Milan filled with people from other countries who share the same passion and the same interest. The extraordinary opportunity that the Milan Design Week offers, in my opinion, is not so much the high number of events themselves. Those numbers almost have the opposite effect, in that they're a little off-putting. You might think there's so much to see that you won't be able to see anything. It's the openness, the possibility during the Design Week to experience how generous the Milanese can be. Traditionally, going right back in time, Milan has always been an incredibly hospitable, welcoming, and generous city. It's in the history, even of all the saints, whose names are now Milan metro stops. Sant'Ambrogio, Sant'Agostino. Milan's history is a history of saints and of generous and hospitable people. But then, at some point, let's say, our nature underwent some odd change. And the image we give off is not really like that. But in the week of Salone del Mobile, it happens. There's this reopening. The chance to see and visit places that are normally closed to the Milanese themselves. The chance to visit the courtyards of buildings, to take guided tours to see places that have always been there, but which are normally hidden from the public view. And so even the people who live in the city don't know about them.
Quindi anche alla conoscenza delle persone che le abitano.
So the Design Week offers the curious travellers the chance to discover a brand new side of Milan, including those areas outside the city centre.
Pian piano quello che sta succedendo, a parte i...
This is what's gradually happening. As well as the usual areas in the centre, where there have always been designers, architects, studios and schools with exhibitions. There's now Fuori Salone, or the Off exhibition. This used to be in Via Tortona, the central district of the Cinque Vie, or 5 streets. And before that, there was Via Manzoni or Via Monte Napoleone, where the big companies had their showrooms. But for a few years now, it's begun to move around the city. This is a good thing too, as it means people can discover areas of Milan they wouldn't normally visit, would have no reason, or wouldn't think they had a reason, to go to.
Dei contesti anche alternativi.
Also for the Venetian designer Luca Nichetto, who's talking to us from his studio in Sweden, the Fuori Salone, or Design Week, was an opportunity to get to know and appreciate the city. Let's hear his impression of the city and how the Fuori Salone event helped him discover its hidden corners and overcome his first impression of Milan.
It was a bit, I must say, traumatic, in the sense that I didn't love it the first time around. I found it hard aesthetically, not like other cities in Italy, probably for a whole range of reasons, and I definitely began to appreciate it little by little. This was above all thanks to Fuori Salone, which allows you to go into places you'd never see otherwise. And I started to discover these incredible corners, these incredible places that of course you can't see from the street. And I must say that from an aesthetic point of view, from the point of view of surprises, Milan certainly keeps on giving. And that's something I like very much. I also have to be objective. I think that Milan has changed radically after the Expo, the Universal Exhibition, with new neighborhoods and a much more interesting vibe. It's also become more international as a city, in my opinion.
One of the most interesting aspects of the Design Week is exactly that, the chance to discover new neighbourhoods and explore hidden courtyards. One example is the Cinque Vie, 5 Streets district, right in the centre. Over the years, it has become one of the liveliest districts during the Design Week, with lots of artisan workshops and stately palaces opening their splendid courtyards to visitors. Cinque Vie, a labyrinth of narrow streets just a few steps from Milan's cathedral that intertwine with each other and meet at the centre of a star shape. The streets that radiate out from it are Via Bocchetto, Via Santa Maria Fulcorina, Via Santa Marta, Via Santa Maria Podone, and Via del Bollo. The latter leads to Piazza San Sepolcro and to a church built right on the Roman Forum. Yes, because these streets have a history that dates back to Roman times. It can be seen in the ancient remains and relics that combine with elegant architecture, both old and new, to make the narrow alleyways unique. Here's Chiara Alessi again.
Cinque Vie, per esempio, tra I vari
Cinque Vie is one of the most surprising areas of Milan in terms of history and the possibility of visiting courtyards and underground spaces that aren't usually accessible because they're hidden behind other courtyards and doorways. So it creates the idea of a centre of Milan not just focused on shopping, which is usually what you think of when talking about the centre, like the big stores on Via Vittorio Emanuele, for example. But the idea that the centre is made up of art that's everywhere. Art and architecture. Because the buildings in the centre of Milan are also a map of the great history of modern Italian architecture. I think you can see this in detail in Cinque Vie. The details and the surprises.
Senso in Cinque Vie. Dettaglio e la sorpresa.
During the Design Week, Cinque Vie district is a party. The courtyard's open to countless design exhibitions and events. Wandering around the neighbourhood, looking up into doorways to discover hidden architecture unveiled for a few days is exciting for tourists and for the Milanese themselves.
The Design Week usually takes place in April. Cinque Vie is just a few minutes' walk from the stop Duomo on the red metro line M1 or the stop Sant'Ambrogio on the green line M2.
That's the end of our episode, but don't take your headphones off yet. As promised, in the next episodes we'll explore 3 important design spaces in Milan, starting with Casa Museo Boschi di Stefano, the Boschi di Stefano House Museum. To listen to the next episodes, follow us on your favourite podcast platforms or visit www.casemuseo.it, where you can also buy the Casa Museo card to visit the Poldi Pezzoli Museum, the Bagatti Valsecchi Museum and Villa Necchi Campiglio at a discount price. The Boschi di Stefano House Museum is free to visit.